across the country, but North Carolina is cracking down on the tenants. When you receive mail at a hotel, when you stay past, I think, 45 days and you receive mail, you're considered a tenant. And the other day, I seen a student get dropped off at a hotel by a school bus, and I'm thinking, damn, a school changed the route of the school bus, or maybe it was on the route, but they're catering to children being dropped off at hotels. That was a Motel 6 that I saw this at. So it says Raleigh, amid the state affordable housing crisis, Section 8 and all that, many struggling North Carolinians live in hotels, no vouchers and all that stuff with Section 8, motels and other similar lodgings. State law protects these residents from removal without eviction. And that's the thing. You go around to some of these hotels, they might be occupied. They may have no vacancies coming in from out of town. I know Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, for example, won't allow visitors to have a P.O. box. They said that there were no more P.O. boxes down in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina one year when I was down there. They don't allow visitors to get P.O. boxes because they have a tenant problem where they have all those motels and hotels along the beach shoreline. But what if you want to live down there and there's not enough post PO boxes for residents? They're being occupied by people who live in hotels and stuff like that, which is in certain cases are legit. But if you have a LLC or something, you may want to use a PO box and stuff like that. So this is in North Carolina here. So it says motels and other similar lodging. State law protects these residents from removal without eviction, but a bill that recently passed the Senate could change things. If passed, all hotel guests will be transient occupants, which means they have to keep it moving. And without landlord-tenant protection for the first 90 days of their stay, making it easier for hotel owners to remove guests even if they live there. Yeah, I remember just staying in this one motel when this one guest said that he's been living in the hotel for 6 years. And I'm thinking, damn, well, maybe cheaper to pay the hotels rather than, having good credit and all of that stuff, typical, American standard stuff. But it used to be cheaper to live in motels, especially the ones along the highways that were like $30 a day and all that stuff. The ones with the horseshoe and the water fountain in it that we used to see in like the movies, 3,000 Miles to Graceland, or, all them little motels that we typically used to see in, movies. But bill proponents say it will bring clarity to the law and improve hotel safety. That's true, because drug dealers start to be at the hotels. You start to have drug deals and drug overdoses and fights and shootings, and these acts of crime happen all across the country. If you stick around some of these hotels long enough, you see prostitutes, you see all kind of stuff going on, man. So, but affordable housing advocates say it will harm already vulnerable people. Already harm vulnerable people. Well, the state is relying on hotels, which build hotels for business. The people that live in in the hotels for a long, like extended stays, they consider the person at the front desk or the hotel manager, they consider them the landlord, and when they make their payments for the extended stays, they consider it paying rent. I've heard these individuals who live in hotels go to consider paying for their stay. They regard it as rent, and they'll go to the office with $1,000. Some of these hotels charge 1,600 a month. No credit check and stuff like that. They just have different prices. You call around, and some of them don't even allow extended stays. Some of them just flat out say they don't allow extended stays. It says something that Governor Roy Cooper also wrote when he vetoed a similar bill in 2021. We're removing critical protections that we've offered North Carolinians for over 3 decades. Wow, that's wild. Democratic Senator Mujaba Muhammad told the Tribune, "This bill is essentially saying that vulnerable people in North Carolina are transient and that we don't see you and that you don't matter." Well, they want to get back to making some business moves. They got more travelers that can't stay in these hotels. Because of the conditions they're in. You know, Sometimes you see a person barbecuing, or sometimes you see a person with their animals, and you have all types of you know tenants or people living in these motels and hotels for long periods of times. And the conditions of the place start to deteriorate. Who knows if the cost of the hotel is equaling out to the maintenance of the hotel? So it says several amendments proposed by Muhammad would have exempt groups from the bill 3 months threshold, but they were all tabled without discussion. The groups included families with children. See that? Families with children. Domestic violence victims, some veterans and elders, people on post release supervision, and natural disaster victims. Okay, well, where's the funding for these places coming from? Is the government going to cut a check for the extended stays? Are they saying they're gonna? Because all of these people that they just named, these different groups of people, the government is not cutting the check for this. So there's not a check being cut from whoever's criticizing this. I feel some type of way about for the hotel owners. I mean, maybe they should get out this business and let the government take over, since they consider the hotels not for business and travelers. They consider it, a shelter. They're turning the hotels into a shelter. That's what that sounds like. Muhammad said he understands the frustration of hoteliers that have struggled with troublesome guests. But that's not the vast majority of people. He said at least the vulnerable guest groups mentioned in his amendment should be protected, and the Republican majority ignored his repeated requests to compromise. See that? So the government, they're trying to pass the blame on the business owners or the people that want to go into this field. That's messed up. That's such a shitty argument. That's such a shitty stance. I'm hopeful that the General Assembly can come together in a bipartisan way to address the issue. Of course, because those groups that they named, that's not the problem of the. That burden shouldn't fall on the owners of the hotels and the people that want to go in this field of business, and not kick these individuals to the curb, or at least provide some sort of reasonable solution in the alternative. He said, yeah, you got Skid Row. Why wouldn't you put all those people in hotels and cut a check if you feel it's a basic human right for people to have a place to stay? Because a veteran is different from a person coming out of jail. So why do they stay in the same hotel? And why are there drug dealers in this hotel too, and prostitutes in the hotel too? So this is not the whole summary of this situation. This is just one aspect of this greater situation because every hotel and motel has a lot of things going on that's not being addressed in this argument. And Republican Senator Vicky Sawyer told the Tribune that while Muhammad brought up valid questions, his amendments were off base and blurred the lines between landlord tenant law and innkeeper law. That's true. She said innkeepers in Statesville, part of her district, were unable to remove paying guests. See that? They're not able to remove paying guests that were drug trafficking. See that? That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm talking about. We got to get these people out of here. We're unable to remove paying guests that were drug trafficking because it was their primary residence. See that? That has to change. That's why this bill needs to pass and it needs to fly and let this bill do what it was created to do. I agree with that right there because it's not just drugs, it's prostitution. All right. I know there's homeless problems, but we need to really invest in that. But I don't think you should tell a hotelier, the person that went in business, that they have to provide homeless shelters in their business. Now I'm with that. See that? I just call it shelters. I'm saying that's a shelter. If we're going to make a private business now pay for something out of their pocket, then we as a state need to reimburse those. And I just said cut a check, man. That's what I'm saying. This is ridiculous. Sawyer also said that law enforcement officers in her district had different interpretations on it when a hotelier can ask someone to leave the premises, and it unlikely came down to the officer's discretion. That's man, wow. It it just was so gray. Exactly, because a damn police officer, that's not his job and that's not his place. So this country needs to be cut and dry and stop being so damn crafty about this situation. The government is very crafty. They know that they're crafty, and it's time for this wicked government to pay for the things that they keep trying to put on the people. It just makes that jump between innkeeper. It was so gray and there was no clarity, so this law basically works to clear that up, she said. Exactly. That's what this law is for. I'm in total agreement with this. It just makes that jump between innkeeper and lesser at the 90-day mark. Exactly. Yeah, man. You got Section 8 programs where females and their children have been on programs for over 20 years. So what is the program for? So these extended stays where, they're turning a hotel into a shelter. So the government needs to pay for more programs. They need to cut checks, come out the pocket for all of these empty arguments and putting it on the people and the private businesses. So this is beautiful, beautiful law. Bill Rowe, an attorney with the NC Justice Center, said apartment fees and screening requirements are some of the biggest problems forcing people into motels. Well, then change the laws of the state, but pass that law. See, they're in partnership with the state because they're making it difficult for the people. This is out of control. Somebody has to. Who's the sober ones in this situation, right? Justice centers and apartment fees, screening requirements are some of the biggest problems forcing people into motels. For example, he says some people can't afford to put down a security deposit, and many landlords turn away tenants with poor credit, a prior eviction, or a criminal record. Yeah, well, that's the state. Sounds like you need to go head up against the state and make them pass different laws and policies to change their process. Rose said many motels across the state have adopted business models for long-term renting. And while he doesn't think they will all act in bad faith, it's bad public policy. See that? To implement the bill as it stands today. Still, he is hopeful a compromise can be reached and said discussions are taking place between housing advocates and hoteliers outside the chambers. Okay, so that's enough about this. I'm gonna leave a link in the comment, but basically, North Carolina is facing a change. Private businesses want to make money and they want to be able to do other things rather than house people in the form of a shelter. State needs more funding. State needs to change something. Okay, but the state is the problem. Okay, lots of money being passed around. You need to cut back on all this entertainment, cut back on the booze, and start putting some of that money into the people. Seems like this place is crashing and it's coming down hard and fast. Cause in a place that only glorifies material and leisure, all the important things, the basic essentials for a man, for humans, is not gonna take place. So where's all the money going? The money's going into somebody's pocket and somebody's bank account. Okay, so I just thought this article was interesting. Because Babylon is falling, and it's falling in every way. It's taking place here and there, but in North Carolina, the tenants are being evicted, and the private businesses, they want their businesses back, pretty much. Okay, so nothing more to speak up on this. It's just, it's waxing cold, and things are getting slow in Babylon. So come out of her and keep the commandments to the best of your ability, so that you can be renewed as an individual. Because this place is it's waxing cold, and the grinding is starting to cease. Shalom.